we've been blessed with the opportunity to study from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is translated and transcendental purports given by Srila Prabhupada. So let's take this opportunity to study, to understand, and thereafter implement something in our lives as much as possible. So as usual, before we begin the study of Bhagavad Gita, we will be chanting the Jai Radha Madhava prayers written by Bhaktivinoda Thakura, and we'll also be chanting the invocation prayers from the first page of the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is. Today we will chant it together in order to save some time. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana
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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav,
Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav.
Jaya Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav.
Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Param Dayal Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Param Dayal Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Let's offer our prayers, invocation prayers, before we begin the study of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Please fold your hands and close your eyes in meditation. If at all you need to look at the book, then you can keep it open. Let's chant them together. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Does everyone have page 1 of introduction? Yes, and we can chant together the prayers. Okay. Namish, you can pick up Bhagavad Gita from the behind. Open up to page number 1 of introduction. Jeev Jago. Yes. Everyone has it? Let's start. With the second one. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Pitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा. Let's offer the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in prayer with our arms upraised together 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Katanjana Smrite Swaram Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Viparitam Sya Shri Chaitanya. Okay, so which chapter are we on? 8. And what is the chapter entitled?
26.
The Supreme.
Oh, wait. I heard some people telling me the title of the chapter and some people telling me the text. So nobody wanted to hear the question, they just wanted to answer. Oh, next question is going to be, Margie is going to answer which text it is. So Prabhu said, attaining the Supreme, yes. Thank you. We are on verse number 6. Thank you for the help. Let's read the text. Oh. Prabhu, can you get me my specs? That's not possible. My specs. Prabhu, it's okay, you can get it. Okay, so can someone revise the points from the chapter so far? We've done 5 texts, so that means we've completed substantial part of this chapter. So can someone revise or bring forth the points that we've done so far? Anybody? Yeah, I had arms raised here. Yes, I'm going to ask Sunny Prabhu, but because I think he's a very attentive student in the Bhagavatam sessions in the morning. But
Chapter 8 is all about attaining the Supreme.
yeah, but here Pitambar Prabhu put his hand up, so he's going to answer. Yes,
Maybe
please.
Sunny Prabhu.
We'll ask him to, yes.
So basically, Arjuna wanted to inquire from Krishna various things, and amongst those, he asked at least 5 questions. He said, first one is, what is Brahman?
Mm.
The second question he said, what is the self, which is Atma?
Mm.
The third he said, what are the fruitive activities?
Mm.
The fourth he said, what is this material manifestation, which is Prakriti?
Mm.
And the last one he said, what are the demigods, and please explain this to me.
Mm.
And thereafter, Sunny Prabhu continues, or?
Yeah, Sunny Prabhu, you can continue.
Chapter 8 is all about attaining Supreme God.
Okay.
Okay? You remember him at the time of death,
Mm-hmm.
and he will take you to Gurukul.
Mm-hmm.
That's all about chapter 8 is attaining Supreme God.
Nice. This, we don't have to have a class today. I see Mataji and Prabhu. I saw you at Govardhan Puja, so nice to see you again. Welcome to the Sangha. We are going to have children's class. She can probably go in for the class. Do you want to go into the kids' class? No, you want to stay here? Okay, I'm blessed. Hi, Krishna. Okay, so let's first read the text and then get into our discussion, right? Everyone charged up to read the text? Okay, so text number 6, Bhagavad Gita as it is, attaining the Supreme. Yam yam
Yam yam
vapi
vapi
smaran bhavam
smaranam bhavam
yam yam vapi
yam yam vapi
smaran bhavam
smaran bhavam
yam yam vapi
yam yam vapi
smaran bhavam
smaran bhavam
yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
Tyajatyante
Tyajatyante
Kalevaram
Kalevaram
Tyajatyante
Tyajatyante
Kalevaram
Kalevaram
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram
Tam tam
Tam tam
Evaiti
Evaiti
Kaunteya
Kaunteya
Tam tam
Tam tam
Evaiti
Evaiti
Kaunteya
Kaunteya
Tam tam Evaiti Kaunteya
Tam tam Evaiti Kaunteya
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam tam Evaiti Kaunteya
Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam tam Evaiti Kaunteya
Sadha
Sada
Tadbhava
Tadbhava
Bhavitaha
Bhavitaha
Sada
Sada
Tadbhava
Tadbhava
Bhavitaha
Bhavitaha
Sada Tadbhava Bhavitaha
Sada Tadbhava Bhavitaha
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam tam Eveti Kaunteya Sada Tadbhava Bhavitaha
Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam tam eveti Kaunteya Sada Tadbhava Bhavitaha.
Okay, anyone in the audience who's not able to chant or like pick up any of the words from this verse? Anyone finds anything difficult, or is it easy? Okay, so everyone finds it easy. So let's read through the word for word translation, and then we will get to chant from each Matajis and Prabhus here. Okay, so let's go to the synonyms. Please repeat. Yam yam.
Yam yam
Whatever.
whatever
Vapi.
vapi
At all.
at all
Smaran.
smaran
Remembering.
remembering
Bhavam.
bhavam
Nature.
nature
Tyajati.
Tyajati
Gives up.
gives up
Ante.
ante
At the end.
at the end
Kalevaram.
Kalevaram
In this body. This body.
this
Tam tam.
tam tam
Similar.
similar
Eva.
eva
Certainly.
certainly
Eti.
iti
Gets.
gets
Kaunteya.
Kaunteya
O son of Kunti.
O son of Kunti
Sada.
Sada
Always.
always
Tat.
Tat
That.
that
Bhava.
Bhava
State of being.
state of being
Bhavitaha.
Bhavitaha
Remembering.
remembering.
Translation and transcendental purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Translation, please repeat. Whatever state of being
Whatever state of being
one remembers
one remembers
when he quits his body,
When he quits his body,
O son of Kunti,
O son of Kunti,
that state he will attain without fail.
that state he will attain without fail.
Whatever state of being
Whatever state of being
one remembers
one remembers,
when he quits his body,
when he quits his body,
O son of Kunti,
O son of Kunti,
that state he will attain without fail.
that state he will attain without fail.
Whatever state of being
Whatever state of being
one remembers when he quits his body,
one remembers when he quits his
O
body,
son of Kunti,
O son of Kunti,
that state he will attain
that state he will attain
without fail.
without fail.
Okay, Matajis and Prabhus, feel free to chant one after the other. Text 6.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
yajatyante kalevaram
tyajatyante kalevaram
tam tam eveti kaunteya
tam tam eveti kaunteya
sada tadbhava bhavita
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि स्मरं भावं
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
तज्यन्ते कलेवरं
tyajatyante kalevaram
तं तं एवेति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
Tajatante kalevaram
tyajatyante kalevaram
Tam tam evaiti kaunteya
tam tam eveti kaunteya
Sada tadbhava bhavitah
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि
यम
Yam vapi smaran
शरण भाव्यम
smaran bhavam
त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम
tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam
Evaiti
एवैति
eveti
तेया
kaunteya
सदा तद्भाव भावितं
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि स्मरण भावम
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
जयन्ते कलेवरम
tyajatyante kalevaram
तम तम वेति
kaunteya
कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भाव भावित
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि स्मरण भावम
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि स्मरण्येवा
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
यजन्त्यन्ते कलेवरम
tyajatyante kalevaram
तम तम एवैति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भाव भावित
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि स्मरण भव्यम
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
यजते अन्ते कलेवरम
tyajatyante kalevaram
तम तम इवति
tam tam eveti
कुन्तेय
kaunteya
सदा तद्भाव भाविता
sada tadbhava bhavitah.
यम यम वापि स्मरन् भावम्
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम्
tyajatyante kalevaram
तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भावभावितः
sada tadbhava bhavitah. Anyone else? Prabhu and Mataji at the back. Do you want to try?
यम यम वापि स्मरण भावम
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam
तच्चतयन्ते कलेवरम
tyajatyante kalevaram
तम इवति कौन्तेय
tam tam eveti kaunteya
सदा तद्भाव भावितः
sada tadbhava bhavitah. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम् तं तमेवेति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः
यं
यं वापि स्मरन् भावम् त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम् तं तमेवेति कौन्तेय
सदा
तद्भावभावितः. One last call.
यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं
यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावम्
त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं
त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरम्
तं एवैति कौन्तेय
तं तमेवेति कौन्तेय
सदा तद्भावभावितः.
सदा तद्भावभावितः. The studio students are not chanting today. They will chant later.
Sunny Prabhu is crying.
Why?
He want to chant.
He wants to
Best-
chant.
best for
Prabhu
last.
will give you a chance later. Okay. So now let's go on to the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Yes, you are definitely going to get a chance later because at the end of our session we'll be chanting the verse again, right? So that time Prabhu will get a chance. And even if I forget, please remind me. Okay, so let's go through the purport of Prabhupada. I hope your all ears are wide open because this purport is to be not read with our eyes but to be drunk by our ears, like we heard in the last lecture from Paripurna Prabhu. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. The process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body thinking of Krishna attains the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord, but it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharata, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in his next life, he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thought during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. Om Tat Sat. Thus I end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th verse of the 8th chapter, Attaining the Supreme. Okay, so first we won't say dissect the purport, but let's pick up the key points from the purport before we dive deeper. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada's, first of all, this verse. Before I begin this discussing the verse with all of you, I beg all of your mercy and prayers so that I may speak something bona fide. Only if we hear something bona fide will the love for Krishna awaken within our heart. Will the faith within our heart firm up? So please bless me and pray that I speak something authentic and bona fide. With that prayer, I begin sharing the key points from this purport. Right? Because in this Kali Yuga, it is important to seek the mercy of the Vaishnavas, because otherwise, once you're put in a pedestal where you're given that platform to speak, your pride just goes up, right? So humility is very important, and that is why it is not something that everyone shows off. Like, we're seeking prayers, but we genuinely seek prayers, right? We're genuinely seeking, and that's why every speaker who sits on the seat, because we somehow feel unqualified. Yes, we are unqualified. Like even Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, right? If you hear the Vaishnava bhajans, if we go through all the Vaishnava bhajans, all the Acharyas say that I'm not qualified. I'm but a stone at your lotus feet, Kichuna himoraguna. I do not have any good qualities. Oh Lord, please pick me up. And, so if the acharyas can say that, what are we, right? At least what am I, right? So please bless me again so that we can discuss this purport and take away some beautiful points to implement in our life. So Srila Prabhupada, so in this verse, Krishna answers a very important question, right? The last verse, I know you all had a very beautiful session. What was the last verse about? How are you, Mataji? Okay. Anyone remembers?
It's about
Same
chanting,
thing.
thinking of Krishna before you die.
It's about thinking of Krishna before you die. And when you think of Krishna before you die, what happens?
So then you go into a transcendental state.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think of anything else other than Krishna, then that's what you become.
Yeah, that's in this verse, yes. Thank you. So in the last verse we learned Antakale cham mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya. There's no doubt, there's no samshaya, there is not an iota of doubt that you will not attain Krishna's form if you think, or Krishna's abode, if you think of Krishna at the time of death. So people would wonder, okay, this is what Krishna's telling. If we remember him, we attain his form. So what happens to those people? Unka kya hoga when they cannot remember Krishna? Jo Bhagwan ko smaran nahi kar sakte, what will happen to them, right? So that's what Krishna's answering in this verse, because anything could happen at the moment of death, right? No one can really predict that, right? Even when we get out of this door, we do not know what's going to happen to us. So what to speak of that crucial moment of death, right? So Krishna, in this verse, Lord Shri Krishna is telling to Arjuna what will happen to those people when they're dying, when they're not able to think of me. What happens? So Krishna's telling this verse, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever state of being one thinks of at the time of death, that state he will attain. What does he say after that? Without faith. So he said in the last verse also, there is no doubt. And here also he's saying that without faith. That means it will certainly happen. And that is what Srimad Bhagavatam beautifully portrays so many stories for us to understand from, right? We will delve into those stories. But before that, we will pick up the key points and you all can share key points from the purport. Yes, so first Prabhupada says that the process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is explained here, right? So Krishna is telling to Arjuna what happens to a person when he leaves his body and doesn't think of Krishna. But how or what actually makes us think of something at the time of death? That's what Prabhupada is saying. The process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is explained in this verse, right? So, yes, Prabhupada is saying again in this purport somewhere that it is a sum total of our life experience is what will come to us at the end of life. In this line, he says, how can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharat, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in the next life he transferred to the body of a deer. Where is that line? So, of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thought at the moment of death. So, this life creates one's next life, right? So the first point is that, yes, it is important to have a proper consciousness when we die. And that is possible if we live our life in a proper way through this life. Because Prabhupada is saying, this life is what creates our next life. And therefore Prabhupada says that if we live in the mode of goodness and always think of Krishna, it is possible to have that proper consciousness. We may not think of Krishna at the time of death, right? We may think of something related to Krishna also. Still it is the same for us, right? So that is the second point. And the third point, a very beautiful point he says is that, therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best process to successfully changing one's state of being at the end of life. So simple, right? So 3 key points, purport is done. Yes? Yes. So let's understand that we're all living this life, that has been given to us, that has been bestowed on us, and we know that it is not very easy for us to get this human form of life, right? You must have heard that, right? Is it easy? No. Okay. The studious set is sitting here. It's already verdict given. No, it's not easy. Why is it not easy?
It takes a lot of cycle of birth and death to attain this stage of.
Okay, so we go through many cycles of birth and death before we attain this human form. It's what's it?
8,400,000.
8,400,000 species. Yes, we have to go through these punarapi maranam, punarapi jaranam, punarapi maranam. Right? We go through birth, death, old age disease, birth, death, old age disease. We go through the cycle, not one time, not two times, but millions and millions of time, and after that we get this durlabham janma, very rarely obtained, this manisham janma, right? And then what do we do with it? We exploit it, not waste it. We exploit it.
We try everything not to do that we should not do.
No, what chittad banate hain, what they say, chittad banate hain zindagi ka, right? Oh, I got the right word.
Yes.
Right? We do not value it, this precious gift of human form of life. We think, I like this aise word. We somehow spend it aise. We wake up every morning, go to work, come back, go through this rat race every day. There's not a moment we take to sit and relax and think and relive that whole day. Do we have time? Do you think about what you've done the whole day? Then what is the point of living this life? Right? Imagine you get a diamond. What will you do with the diamond?
बेच खाएंगे उसको.
बेच खाएंगे. वहाँ फिर बेच खाएंगे. Again, it's all about sense gratification, right? We have to gratify these senses. Well, some people when they get something precious, they take care of it, right? So just to put the point out there, yes, this human form that we have is very precious. It is not meant to be wasted. Just as much as we all know for a fact that time cannot be wasted. Once this time, 5:54 p.m. on 24th November 2024 is not going to come back, right? Unless obviously we have the Mahapralaya and the whole cycle changes and then you go through the whole thing, right? It's not going to come back, right? So similarly, this human form of life that you have is not going to come back unless, yes, you have certain karma and whatever, and then you attain that human form again, right? So human form of life is very rare. It is precious. Therefore, we must utilize it well. So Prabhupada says, we must live our life in the proper state of mind. And again, Prabhupada says in this purport that although Bharat Maharaj lived a very transcendental life, a life of spirituality, he was a very, renowned king that the entire world was known by his name, Bharatvarsh, right? Until date, people call it Bharat, right? So he was such a renowned king. Do you know who's his father? Who's the father of Bharat Maharaj?
दुष्यंत.
No. Okay, I'm going to bring his name somewhere in the lecture, and then maybe you will tell me who is his father. Okay. So Bharat Maharaj, no, not Dushyanta. Okay. So yeah, no one Googles, no cheating. The answer is so easy that when I say, you'll be like, oh, it's this person. Okay. Anyhow, so Bharat Maharaj, as you know, he was a great ruler. He renounced his kingdom. He gave it off to his sons, and then he took up life of asceticism. He went, he meditated, and then and when he was doing his meditations and he was trying to connect with the supreme absolute truth, in the banks of the river there was a deer that came to drink water, and when there was this loud sound of thunder, the deer gave birth to a fawn, and it just left his body. Right? So now this little baby deer, the fawn, did not have anyone to look after, and so Bharat Maharaj, being very sympathetic, compassionate. A devotee is always compassionate. And here he was the father of the entire nation. He used to be, at least, right? That love for creatures, the love for people was still there in him, and so he wanted to take care of this deer. Now, although he was engaged in spiritual activities, his concentration was still diverted to take care of that deer. Right? He would make sure the deer is okay, it has eaten properly, it's resting properly. I hope it is not being attacked by other animals. So he was constantly thinking of that fawn, although he was also doing his meditation. So one day, Bharat Maharaj, what happened? This baby deer, the fawn, was missing from his vision. He could not see. Just like, when our children are not around us, what will happen? You're also wondering, oh, where is my child? What is he doing? What is she doing? Is she eating well? Is she resting well, right? So, Bharat Maharaj, although he was not the father of that deer or mother of the deer, he still cared for the deer, right? So now, he was going to look for the deer, and then he slips, falls, thinking of the deer, and therefore he attains the body of a deer, because he was thinking of the deer at the time of death, right? Although he had done so much of tapasya, so much of austerity, so much of spirituality in his life, what happened? At the end of the life, because of a certain situation, he thought about a deer, and therefore he attained the body of a deer. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram. He attained taptameveti kanteya sadatadva. That state of being he's attained, what he thought of at the time of death. You may think, okay, why did this happen to Bharat Maharaj? He was such a renounced person, right? But yes, as Ramesh Prabhu always quotes, it is Krishna's Leela. Krishna wanted to teach us or provide us an example. Not only Bharat Maharaj, there are other people also, to tell us what happens to us if we cannot think of Krishna at the time of death, right? So Bharat Maharaj attained the form of a deer, but he was blessed with the opportunity to remember his past life by the mercy of the Lord. And therefore, even though he was a deer, he returned back to that place of meditation, and he left his body, and then he attained the body of a Brahmana, right? Now, in this body of a Brahmana, he was known as Jada Bharat. He was very, very careful. He was too careful not to associate with the worldly minded people. He gave up the association of Avaishnavas, Avaishnavathyaga, right? What is that shloka? Okay, that shloka says basically, renouncing worldly association is the quality of a Vaishnava. So, why? Because if he associates with worldly minded people, what happened to him when he associated with the deer? He got connected to the deer somehow, and therefore he was caught up in that cycle of birth, death. But his true purpose was that he wants to serve the Lord, he wants to be connected to the Lord, and also he wanted to be free from the material afflictions, right? So, because of this, Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharat, he gave up the association of worldly minded people, and to the world he seemed like a retard, homeless. He wouldn't speak to people, he would be introvert, he would just keep to himself. But what was he doing with, the world was thinking he's a foolish person, but what was he doing?
Krishna Smaranam.
He was doing Krishna Smaranam. He was doing Krishna Kirtanam. He was ensuring that his connection with the Lord is never lost, right? And so he was keeping himself aloof. He was doing stuff that he was assigned to do, like his parents and brothers. Sometimes they put him to take care of the field. He was even asked by King Rahaguna to carry the palanquin. Okay, there's a story after that. But what I'm trying to tell here is, Bharat Maharaj, he got the form of the deer, then he was again born as a Brahmana. Now, as a Brahmana, Jada Bharat, let's complete that story. He was invited by the palanquin bearers because, the procession of the king was visiting his provinces, and one of the palanquin bearers, he got hurt, right? And so they needed somebody to replace. They found Jada Bharat. They said, oh, this man, he's not doing anything much. Let's take him. He looks hatta-gatta.
Well-built.
Yeah, well-built. Let's use him in the service of our king. So he was carrying the palanquin and he was walking. All the palanquins, what happens when you're carrying a palanquin? How do you work?
Straight.
Do you,
Without jumping.
there's a coordinated walk, right? You can't walk at your own whims and fancies, right? Just like how in dances you have to coordinate. Similarly, in this carrying of palanquin, they had to coordinate all the four bearers. Now, everyone was going in a particular motion. This Jada Bharat, he was going like crisscross. He was like, going on his toes. He didn't want to hurt the ants or creatures on the floor, and therefore he was being very, very conscious, very, very careful that he doesn't hurt them. And because of that, the whole movement of the palanquin was sort of getting disturbed. And so the king got really upset, and he started, utilizing some bad words to curse out. Who is that person who you cannot even carry this palanquin? Who are you? What kind of foolish person are you, right? Now, Jada Bharat, hearing this, he didn't retaliate. But again and again, when he was told, he said, look, I am not a foolish person, neither am I intelligent. I'm not a fat person, nor am I a thin person. I am the spirit soul within the body, you see. And now when he heard, who heard this?
King.
Who was the king? Rahugana, yes. When he heard this, he was like, wait, stop. The palanquin stopped. And the king got out. He said, you don't seem like an ordinary person. Everyone told me that you're just a foolish person, but you speak something very learned. Who are you? You've spoken something really wise, so can you please share this knowledge with me? So there's a conversation that happens that runs for many days and months together, and finally the king takes shelter of Jada Bharat, and now he has accepted the process of Krishna consciousness as explained by Jada Bharat. So although Bharat Maharaj had such an unfortunate situation of not being able to remember Krishna at the time of death, life turned around, it came full cycle, and he was now a person whom everyone was seeking out to, who was distributing the mercy of the Lord, and finally he went to the abode of the Lord. Okay, so that is one situation where Krishna, from the pastime of Bharat Maharaj, explains to us what happens when a person is not able to think of Krishna. And because he's practiced spirituality his entire life, because he's practiced Krishna consciousness his entire life, he was awarded with the memory of being able to remember his past life, and therefore he was able to correct. Right? Not everybody gets this opportunity. Right? Bharat Maharaj was fortunate. Not everybody gets this opportunity.
It was special mercy of Krishna.
Special mercy of Krishna, exactly. It is a very special mercy. Yes, again, because it is Krishna's Leela, he had to award that special mercy so that we will understand, right? Well, we study from the pages of Bhagavatam the life of Parikshit Maharaj and how he left his body too, right? Can anyone share quickly?
The Taksat, he was cursed to die within 7 days by Taksat, and therefore he went to the banks of Ganges, where he met Sukdev Goswami. He heard Bhagavatam 7 days, 7 nights without sleep, without eating, without drinking, and finally, even before Taksat comes,
He left his body, yes. So, you see here, what did this example tell us? It tells us that a devotee of the Lord can turn an unfortunate situation into a fortunate situation, right? What was the unfortunate situation? That he had to leave his body by being bit by a serpent, Takshak, right? A venomous serpent, right? But what did he do? He turned that situation around. Why? Because obviously he repented his action and therefore he took corrective measures and he sought the shelter of his gurus, right? And by the instructions of his gurus, he heard the glories of the Supreme Absolute Truth and he meditated on the Supreme Absolute Truth and he left his body. He said, let the poisonous serpent come. Let me be bitten. He was unaffected by this unfortunate situation. So Krishna shows us what the life of a person who's been Krishna consciousness turns out to be, what he can do out of any situation, right? An unfortunate situation turned out to be a fortunate situation for Parikshit Maharaj, right? And he bestowed us the opportunity to hear the glories of Krishna, right? It's because of him that we are able to hear. Srila Vyasadeva wrote it, it was spoken, right? And therefore we are able to hear it, right? So that is the second story, right? We also know the pastime of how Dhruva Maharaj was awarded the mercy of the Lord. He gave him darshan, and finally how he left back home, back to Godhead, right? The airplane, the carriers from, the spiritual abode came and took the entire family back, right? So we see different examples of people, right? We also see in and day out how people leave their body, right? Can someone give me an example of, do you know anybody who's left their body and what was their last moment like? Maybe 2 or 3 of you?
Bhishma Pitama was one example.
Yes. Yeah, but I'm asking for examples in your lives, not from the Shastras.
In Kali Yuga.
Yes,
present
yeah,
is-
maybe your grandfather, maybe your uncle, maybe, yes, Prabhu.
So my grandma passed away years before in front of me,
Mm.
and just 2-3 big gasps, the breathing,
Mm.
and it went through the I think
Mouth.
and then she was silent.
Mm. So at that time, who was next to her?
I was the only one.
Nice. So, but you were obviously chanting or reading for,
the Harinam.
So Prabhu was next to his grandmother chanting the Harinam, right? Giving her the proper state of consciousness for the soul to leave her body, right? There are so many others in this world who at the time of death, they either want to eat something that they love, or they want to be with people that they love, right? Or they want to discuss money matters with their family members. Mere is account mein itna hai, us account mein utna hai. Just this, and write the will in the last moment. If they don't know, they're going to die. Yes, Prabhu.
And Manju Bhogal.
Yeah, I was thinking of her,
the,
yes.
The mother was sick in MS hospital. Incidentally, I met her, and I was going every day, me and my wife, maybe for a week or 10 days, constantly
Chanting. Yeah.
chanting. She was in coma, but she could hear. Sometimes she used to open the eyes, and we used to chant not only Hare Krishna Mantra, but Narasimha Kavacham, then Gajendra Moksha, and the Kunti Stuti.
Nice.
Every single day for
Nice.
about 7 days, 10 days, non-stop. And then ultimately she passed away 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Uh,
Hari Bol.
but we made sure that she listened. Sometimes I could see tears
Coming
flowing
out of her eyes.
from her eyes where she is in the vegetative state. That means every word we spoke
Was heard.
was just next to her head
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
And the family was call and respond sort of.
Nice.
And we made sure that she listens all the 3 prayers, including Maha Mantra,
Nice.
such that the Anta Kale
Tamameva Smaranukta Kalevaram. Yes.
Such opportunities we should never ever lose.
Exactly, right? So this is how we can create an opportunity for someone leaving this world. There might be somebody who's not connected to Krishna at all, but somehow or the other, Sanketyam Parihasyam va, Shobham Kelanam eva va, Vaikunta Nama Grahanam, Vaikunta Nama Grahanam. If even by joke, even by musical, they're musically inclined and they're hearing it, even for joke, or even with serious attention they chant Krishna's name, what happens? Ashesha Aga Haranam. Ashesha means unlimited. Aga means, what is Aga? We learned it recently.
Papam.
Papam, sin. Unlimited sins are taken away. Right? So, how are unlimited sins taken away? By Vaikunta Nama Grahanam, by the hearing of the names of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Right? Sri Krishna. And that's why Srila Prabhupada was on this purport. He says, it's very easy to change people's consciousness at the time of death. By chanting. By chanting.
Hare
Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This chanting is so simple, yet it is very powerful, right? We've heard this. Simple, yet very powerful. So, how many of us are taking up the simple yet powerful process in our life? How many of us are actually, yes, how many of us are really making time to chant the holy names of the Lord, if not 108 into 16, at least 108 into one time? 108 times. Is there anyone who is not chanting the holy names of the Lord? My Prabhu wants to put his hand up. Because they say, if you're not chanting minimum 64 rounds, you're really not chanting.
64 कब हो गया?
No, it's okay. Just ignore what I said. Just ignore what I said.
It was to keep his hand down.
That was just तुक्के में हो गया तो किसी ने हाँ बोल दिया।
ऐसे
नहीं प्रभु कह रहे हैं कि बढ़ाती जा रहे हैं।
Just like reading Srimad Bhagavatam, if you've not read more than 10 times, you've not read Bhagavatam at all. Right? एक बार दो बार हो गया, मैंने 3 बार भागवतम पढ़ लिया प्रभु माता जी, मेरा तो जन्म सार्थक हो गया.
But
No.
Prabhupada always says the real chanting starts from the 17th round.
Exactly, because till then you're actually counting, you know, you want to finish 16 rounds, you're counting. But if you're chanting so many rounds, you actually don't pay attention to the counting. Yeah, you lose the count, right? That's, it may seem like a joke, but it's actually very true, right? The more you chant, what happens is, Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas say, the more you progress in your spiritual life, what happens is, every minute, every moment you're chanting Krishna's name. Actually, then the count is, they ask, why must we chant 16 rounds?
count doesn't count.
No, count doesn't count. Why should we chant? Why should we count? Srila Prabhupada emphasized chanting a minimum of 16 rounds. Prabhupada ji ने बोला कि हमें minimum 16 rounds इसलिए करना चाहिए ताकि हम में discipline आ जाए, अनुशासन आ जाए. क्योंकि इस कलयुग में there is no discipline at all. None of us has discipline whatsoever, right? First of all, this Kaliyuga is such, right? Kalir dosha nijay rajan. It is full of faults, right? And what is the best quality? Asti eko mahan guna. What is that? Kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. You will get param vrajet. You will go back home, back to Godhead. You will be liberated from this bondage by chanting that Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this is not possible if not for the mercy of the sadhus, the Vaishnavas in our life, right? It's because you came in contact with the Vaishnava. आपने किसी न किसी वैष्णव से संपर्क किया, इसीलिए आप इधर हो आज. That is why you've been bestowed the opportunity of being present here and studying this beautiful text from the Bhagavad Gita, right? If you did not come in contact with a Vaishnava, it is very difficult to even get the opportunity to chant Krishna's name. I think I mentioned this in so many acharyas say that, but recently Gauravani Prabhu and Madhvas made a song. What's that? कृष्ण का नाम ले सकेंगे. अगर कृष्ण की कृपा नहीं है तो हम कृष्ण का नाम नहीं ले सकेंगे. So it's only if Krishna's mercy is upon us will we get the mercy of Vaishnava, and by the mercy of the Vaishnava we will get the mercy to chant Krishna's name, right? It is it's not a vicious cycle, it's a beautiful cycle, right? By the mercy of Krishna, we get the hands of a Vaishnava, and by the mercy of the Vaishnava, we get the lotus feet of Krishna, to the opportunity to chant the holy names of Krishna, right? Yes, Krishna's name is very simple. There is no rules and regulations to chant these names. You can chant it anyhow, anytime, anybody can chant it. You do not need to have a qualification. You can chant it in any state of mind, any state of existence. Animals, cats, dogs, birds, bees, humans, anybody can have the opportunity to chant. When Mahaprabhu came to this world, he made the animals, beasts and birds chant in the Jharkhand forest. He when he was a younger kid, like when he was Nimai, he even had a dog that he used to come around and hear the holy names, right? So the holy names is, there are no rules and regulations, and it's bestowed with a lot of potency. Right? Mataji is here to indicate that it's time for Aarti. I'm just kidding. But I think I'm going to take another 5 to 10 minutes because I actually remembered that I'd like to share a beautiful story. I don't know why I'm on stories today. But yes, it is very important we understand why we're studying the Bhagavad Gita. We realize for a fact that we're not wasting our time. By studying the sacred text, we are not wasting our time because these are words of the Supreme Absolute Truth. And so I'll try to share the story in a very summarized way. So there was once a Brahmana by the name Bhava Sharma, and he married a prostitute. And therefore his religious activities, his dharmic activities reduced, and he started doing all sorts of abominable things, right? He started eating meat, drinking wine, to the extent that he went to a party and he drank alcohol so much so that everything came out of his system. right? And then he caught up dysentery and he fell ill, and then he died. That was his story. And when he died, he became a ghost. He actually not a ghost. He took the form of a date palm tree. What did he take the form of? Date palm tree. Now, this is the story of Bhava Sharma. Okay, he was somewhere in south of India. I can't remember the place name. It starts with A. So now Bhava Sharma became a date palm tree. Okay, and he's there. Now, there is another story connected here. There are two other people, Brahma Rakshasas. Sorry, forgive me again. I'm very bad at remembering names. The husband and wife Brahma Rakshasas, they were actually, very learned, very pious, but they were so greedy. They accumulated so much that they would not give charity to other Brahmanas. They were just accumulating, not giving anything to anybody. They were very greedy. So when they left their body, they became ghastly beings. They became Brahma Rakshasas. That means they kept roaming this world without being freed from the ghostly body. So one day they sat next to this date palm tree, and their husband and wife are talking. They're still connected to each other, even in the ghostly form. And I don't think all of us will get that opportunity, and I don't think anybody wants it. But here, these two Brahma Rakshasas, they were connected.
Is that an opportunity?
Well, I don't know. It depends case to case, right?
Don't wish for it.
So, yeah, Monica Maji is not there, so
Therefore he is speaking.
Okay, so these Brahma Rakshasas, they were sitting and talking below this date palm tree. And so the husband and wife were talking, and they were like, the wife was asking, will we ever be freed from this form, my dear husband? And the husband was like, yeah, definitely it's possible, because they were learned people, okay? So they remembered and they said, we can, if we know what is Brahman, what is the self, if we are really spiritually inclined, and if we do activities that are, connecting us to the Supreme Absolute Truth. And so the wife was, okay, the husband mentioned this, so the wife's like, oh, what is Brahman? What is the self? And what are fruitive activities? Anyone remembers these words?
8.1.
8.1, right?
I just spoke beginning of that.
Yeah,
5 questions.
yeah, 5 questions. And these are 3 questions. Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatma, kim karma, purushottama. And who's the Supreme Absolute Truth? It is only half of that shloka. As soon as these words were said unknowingly by the wife, who was the Brahma Rakshasa, Rakshashini or whatever, right? So the date palm tree attained the form back as a, what was he before? Brahmana. Now, he remembered, fortunately, by the mercy of the Lord, he remembered. What did he hear? Kim tad Brahma. Kim Adhyatma. Kim Karma Purushottama. Please repeat. Kim tad Brahma. Kim Adhyatma. Kim Karma Purushottama. Kim tad Brahma. Kim Adhyatma. Kim Karma Purushottama. Kim tad Brahma. Kim Adhyatma. Kim Karma Purushottama. So this person, Bhava Sharma, very consciously he would chant these words. He did not know what it was. He didn't know it was from Bhagavad Gita. But he saw. What did he see? He saw as soon as the Brahma Rakshasas said these words, suddenly there was a beautiful airplane from the spiritual abode that came down and took these beings that had transformed back into their original form, and they were going back home, back to Godhead. So he saw this beautiful sight and he said, oh, I can also attain this form just by saying these words. What are those words? I thought he googled it or something. Kim tad brahma kim adhyatma. Kim karma purushottama. The Shastra say you chant quarter of a shloka of the Shastra verse of the whole text, or you chant half the words, or even half a word you chant. Still you're benefited. Here they chanted half a verse of the Bhagavad Gita, the words spoken by the Lord. Even though it was just accidentally spoken, it had the same benefit, same merit as the verse from the Gita. And so they attained the form. So now Baba Sharma very consciously he was chanting these words at the banks of the Ganga, and one day Lord Narayana was asleep and he woke up and suddenly and Lakshmi Devi is like, oh my dear Lord, what happened? Why are you were sleeping. Why did you wake up? And then the Lord says, my devotee Baba Sharma, he is, seeking out to me by just chanting these verses. I must get him back. So now Baba Sharma goes back to the spiritual abode. So you see, are we all wasting our time here?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Right? And especially when we learn the verses of the Gita, we're not wasting time at all. People always ask me, why Mataji? Why do you chant these verses? Why are you chanting these Vaishnava bhajans? Why? There's so much out there to do in bhakti. You can do this seva, you can do that seva, you can do so many sevas. But every seva has its benefit. Every seva has its merit. Right? When we chant the Vaishnava bhajans, we connect with the mood of the acharyas and we stay humble and rooted. When we read the verses of the Gita and the Bhagavad, what happens is we are able to understand the mercy of the Lord and the Vaishnavas and his dealings with his devotees, right? And without the mercy of the acharyas, we will not be sitting here. We will not even have the mood and attitude to take a book and read, whatever it is. You may know, you might be from the best of parentage, lineage of devotees. But for you as a person, as an individual, to be able to take the Bhagavad Gita and read, or to chant a verse from the Gita, it requires special mercy. Okay, and Prabhupada has bestowed that mercy on all of us by giving us these beautiful purports, right? By giving us this beautiful association of devotees, right? By giving us beautiful temples where we can visit and take the darshan of the Lord, right? And build a connection with the Lord, right? This verse actually. Every verse is a nectar verse, and this verse has so much. But I share the story because we have what is known as the Advent of Gita coming up. And I heard a lot of you are doing so many marvelous feats by distributing so many Bhagavad Gitas to many, many souls. I heard Ashwin Arora Prabhu had distributed some 40 odd Gitas. So Hare Krishna to Prabhu. Let's chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Yeah, so that is a wonderful feat, and that wouldn't have been possible if we did not have the mercy of a Vaishnava or of the sadhus or the mercy of Krishna, right? I'm sure all of you are in some team or the other to distribute the Gita. And when you go to distribute the Gita, the only thing that you need to do is take the verse of a Gita, seek the guidance from the Gita, pray to the Gita and tell us, we are just instruments in your hand, O Lord. Please help us distribute this mercy to the others. And Krishna will help us if we are sincere, right? He definitely will. Like how he had helped Jada Bharat, he helped Parikshit Maharaj, he helped Dhruva Maharaj, and so many others, right? There's another story of a king who thought of his wife when he died, and then what happened to him? He became a female, yes. He became a female. It is true that what we do in our life and what we think, we become that, right? To the extent that what we eat also affects our consciousness, right? I've heard that, if we are very addicted to sense gratification, or if we're very addicted to, eating things that are not offered to Krishna, or if we are addicted to shopping, and if you're addicted to, XYZ, whatever, that becomes part of our system. And that's what you will think of when you're leaving this body, right? Like before some time we quoted the example of people at the time of death, they wanted to eat the food that they like, because they're thinking that, oh, I'm not going to get this opportunity to eat rasgulla, gulab jamun, or whatever I want, right? So they've lived their entire life thinking of food. They've lived to eat. And therefore, at the time of death, also they're thinking of eating, right? Well, there are so many examples of, there's this example of how, the 4 principles that ISKCON stands for. Anyone knows what they are?
Utility is the principle.
Yeah, I've been given times up, but I'm ending in 2 minutes. No, that's Prabhupada's principles. But the pillars of ISKCON are no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling, right? So just this pillar of no meat eating, right? I just suddenly remembered that there's a picture in the Gita where, you have people of different consciousness and what they're eating. So it's said, I remember Paripurna Prabhu discussed about Kumbi Paka and all the hells in one of his lectures recently, right? So when we are addicted to, troubling the animals and consuming them, what happens is we not only get their body at the end of life, or get a body that will allow us to eat animals, but what happens between that life and this life is we go down to hell, and what happens to it,
Yatana Sarir.
Yeah, we get the Yatana Sharir, and in that Sharir,
Sarir you will never die. Still you suffer.
and you suffer. You're dipped in hot oil, or you're poked by so many things. You're suffering. Some people say, what do we know of our next life? Just let's enjoy this life. But that's not true, right? We've seen examples where it shows us clearly that this life is a preparation for our next life. And therefore, we must help everyone who's leaving this body. If we have the knowledge, just take the effort like Prabhu did for Manju Gogol Mataji's mother. Or, we do for our grandparents or our parents, or, I know of so many devotees who, when they know they're about to leave their body, they immediately take the association of devotees. Either where they are, if they're not able to travel to India, or they go to India. And I remember Sunny Prabhu had asked this question I have not answered till now. What is the importance of getting connected to Tulsi Maharani at the time of death? She is a Vaishnavi, she is a devotee of the Lord. And by being in contact with her, by drinking Tulasi Jal, by having Tulasi on our tongue, we are in connection with Krishna directly, right? Bhakti Pradayini. She's Krishna, Keshava Priya, right? It's also said that if we wear Kantimala and if we take bath in the morning, the water that flows on our body, that flows through this Kantimala, is as good as all the holy rivers, not just Ganges, all the holy rivers. That is the potency of Tulasi, right? There are beautiful shlokas that glorify the potency of Tulsi. I'm not going to go into that. So, just to summarize in this text, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever we think at the time of death, that form we will attain without fail, Krishna assures Arjuna. And we can change our consciousness. If we are not spiritually inclined at this point of time, we can still change our consciousness. And it is so simple. We just need to take up the holy name of the Lord. We just need to chant the holy names of the Lord in the association of devotees. What happens is, when you take the holy names of the Lord actually paves the way for you. He gives you sadhus. He gives you the shastras. He gives you the guidance. He corrects what's wrong in your life. He does everything for you. But what do you have to do? You just have to take that endeavor. You just have to take the step forward. Right? So on that note, we will finish today's class. And if anybody has any questions, we will take just one question.
I have a comment.
Oh, yes, Prabhu. Sorry. Question, comments, anything, most welcome. Yes.
The question, it's not so, if King Bharata had named the deer Narayana, would the Shastra have been different?
It really depends, on. I'm no one to judge the situation. Even if you name a person Narayana, what is the guarantee that you'll call him at the time of death? Right? He was just only worried, where is the deer gone? Is he okay? Right?
So where is Narayana gone? Same thing.
Yeah, but he's only thinking of the deer, right? At that time, yes. It could have been different, because even that time maybe he wouldn't have taken
the
the
reason
name.
I'm saying that,
It could.
if we objectize, if we put all Krishna as object,
Yes, that's what we are doing in this material
that's
world.
exactly what we're teaching here, right?
Yeah, but
Then that happens.
there is 99% chance that we may not forget who Krishna is when when we name an object with Krishna's name, right? Instead of saying Tinky, Pinky, Winky, whatever, right? We name our kids with beautiful names of Krishna, so that when we call their name, not just kids, right? Anything and anybody, right? For instance, my nephews, they have some toys. Nitai, Nimai, Radhika and Madhava. Like you play with such things, or you help the children build their consciousness around Krishna, right? So yes, you can name things around by Krishna's name. I've even heard some people name their dog Krishna, and they've been elevated because of that opportunity. But it really depends case to case. I remember S.B. Keshav Maharaj, Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, in one of the podcasts with Ranveer, he was asked this question: Maharaj, imagine if you had to leave your body now, would you think of Krishna? And Maharaj's answer was, okay, Maharaj is in the renounced order. He's done so much. He does so much of book distribution, he does so much of prachar, but he said, there is no guarantee. It is not possible to simulate what we can think at the time of death. It is not possible unless we keep practicing. He said that unless we keep practicing, it becomes part of our life. It becomes like the breath in our body, right? Yes, Prabhu.
So there are two.
Sorry, just to add to that point, you said we can't simulate, but there's one small exercise we can do.
No, he said we can't really simulate unless we make it part of our system.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what Maharaj said. But then we also discussed one thing a couple of months back. I don't know how many of you were here.
Yes.
I remember what you are going to say.
What is that, Prabhu?
No,
You
can
go
please
ahead. No,
go
you
ahead.
go ahead. There's no time. Yeah.
All right, so the quick one, I don't know if you recall, we had volunteered for an exercise. That is, whenever we are sneezing, whenever we trip and fall, whenever we get hurt, whenever we are distracted, or whenever we are in shock, what comes to your mouth is a very good example of what you will attain.
What do you remember
at the end of life. So please, and the exercise was start practicing.
Ashwini, I remember Prabhu.
Yeah, instead of saying, oh God, something else, all those words that we have in our vocabulary, even calling Amma, Daddy, all
Ayyo,
those stuff.
ayyo,
Ayyo is the pinnacle. Start calling the names of Krishna. If you remember it, there's some chance at the end of life that we might remember Krishna.
Haribol.
Yes, Prabhu.
So he has answered like part of it. But what I was going to say was there are two ways to look at it, right?
Yeah.
If we look at 8.5 and the example of Bharat Maharaj, there are two ways that we can look at it. One is it's motivating way, right? That if you think about Krishna at the end of life, then you attain his nature. The demotivating way is if such a pure devotee like Bharat Maharaj, right, doing so much, being such pure devotee, at the end of his life, if he's thinking about deer, he's still becoming a deer, right? And I remember there is a incident that it's a true incident that happened. I came to know in Delhi, ISKCON. One of the brahmacharis, he was as usual, like he went to the pond, he dipped, and he was about to die just because something happened, right, accidentally. So, but the other brahmachari pulled him up outside. So later somebody was asking him, like,
What did you think?
What did you think, right? What was going in your mind? You are a brahmachari. He said, somehow, I don't know what happened. I was thinking of that ad, right? You remember washing powder Nirma? that suddenly came into my mind, right? So we see so much throughout our life. We consume so much that we don't know what we are going to see.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So if for such a pure devotee, it's so difficult that he became a devotee, what are the tips for people like us? Obviously, keep practicing and chanting is one definitely way. But
What do we do?
what do we do, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So the nectar of instruction and nectar of devotion actually gives a lot of points, and the main point of everything is just being satsanga, be in the association of devotees of the Lord, because in that association you will never get derailed. Right? If you think of practicing bhakti on, I know XYZ, I can listen to YouTube, I have the books with me, but there are 200% chance of getting derailed. But when you are with a bona fide representative of the Lord, when you're in the association of devotees who are connected to the bona fide representative, we will never get derailed. And even if we get derailed, there'll be somebody else pulling us up, right? So be in the association of devotees. Paripurna Prabhu was a very famous example. Hold each other's hands. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is supposed to be auspicious. My mom says if water spills accidentally, there's something auspicious happening in our lives, right? So please forgive me for that.
Haribol.
Yeah, so yes, hold each other's hand, right? You might be able to confide in somebody, right? The Nectar of Instruction also says, Dadati pratigrihnati guhyam akhyati pritchati bunjate bojate chaiva sadvida priti lakshanam. These are the 6 qualities that devotees practice. Dadati pratigrihnati guhyam akhyati pritchati. They invite one another to each other's house. They feed prasadam. They have discussions. They confide in one another, right? All these things they do. Why? Because their center of activities is Krishna, right? And they want to grow together in Krishna consciousness, right? We are not like the, what is that? The creature that pulls you down when you're climbing up? Crab, yeah. We are not crabs. We don't have the crab mentality. We want to race together in Krishna consciousness. If someone is doing so well, let's learn from that person and rise up, right? Right? If someone's not, let's push that person to rise up, right? That's what devotees, that's the quality of a devotee, right? So, very simple, be in the association of sadhus. Sadhus, they also say, there are various instances, they say that when you want to grow in spirituality, be in the association of people who are higher than you in spirituality. And then share that knowledge with those who want to come to that level, right? Because every devotee we have Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama Adhikaris. There are 3 levels of devotees, and within those 3 levels you have again subdivisions of Kanishta, Kanishta, Madhyama, Kanishta, Uttama, Madhyama, Kanishta, there are different segregations. So you first of all need to identify where you are and then associate with at least one level higher, right? What will happen is, because of the potency of their bhakti, you will also raise to that level, right? And then you will, because Vaishnavas are very compassionate, they share that with others. Because I'm experiencing such great happiness. I'm experiencing this unlimited joy. So let me give this to my friends. Let me give to those people whom I've come in contact with. They may not necessarily be your friends. They may not necessarily be your acquaintance. But I have met this person XYZ. Let me go share this with him. Not because you are there to gain anything out of that relationship. You are just giving your learning to that person so that that person's benefited. If a person is doing something to get benefit out of the relationship, then
Krishna will take care of it.
Krishna will take care, right? But if a person is sincerely trying to give Krishna bhakti to that person, again, Krishna will take care because he's the one who's sending, right? So be in the association of sadhus, right? Without their mercy, nothing is possible. Even chanting of the holy name is not possible if there is no mercy of the Vaishnava, right? And the acharyas and the Vaishnavas, everyone say that you take association by reading the books. And these books have to be read not by single-handedly, but in the association of devotees. Find so many examples we know. If you want to better yourself at harmonium or cricket or mridanga or whatever, you go to a person who's more experienced than you to learn, right? Same applies. Very simple. Yes, Mataji.